So in this review, I'm going to be using a portrait lens that I borrowed, which provides a beautiful blurry effect in the background. It also helps you spot my physical flaws with alarming ease. Welcome to In a Handful of Minutes, the show where we review everything else. In this week's review, we'll be looking at something I call the urge. What's the urge? It's a desire in me, and others I assume, to take a project of any size and try and make it better. With better generally meaning more complicated. When I give into the urge, I can't just leave my house to go get some milk. I also have to get some apples and some sausages, and I could probably replace those sneakers that are wearing out, and I should get beer for the party next Thursday, and I should definitely adopt that orphan I always see outside the McDonald's. The urge is really strong and can sometimes make you do something completely different than what you set out to do in the first place. For example, when I started doing In a Handful of Minutes a little over 3 years ago, the idea was to learn a whole bunch of new things by basically just screwing around and sharing a bunch of interesting crap I read about. But right away I set myself up a rigid style guide along with a bunch of semi-arbitrary rules that I locked myself into for a long time. These made some episodes of the show more work than was actually enjoyable and kept me from trying a whole bunch of cool things I always wanted to do. Like an episode of the show where I just stare at the camera and eat french fries for 20 minutes. Which brings us to a third negative of the urge. It often stops you from doing anything at all. Either you weigh down what you're trying to do with so much extra effort that it becomes impossible, or say you decide that if you can't surf on the back of a Mexican robotic shark while juggling identical twin supermodels, then why bother? If all you can get are fraternal twins, I mean, who's gonna want to watch that crappy show? However, the urge isn't without its upsides, however. It's inspired me to always try and do better, learn more, even within the confines of my own rules, and to almost never upload something to Handful that I felt was subpar. Hang in during the credits to find out why that last one's really beneficial. But heck, without the urge, I might have given up on In a Handful of Minutes a long time ago. Thankfully, there's still a whole bunch of overly ambitious stuff I want to try and do, especially now that I've freed up all this extra time by paring down the regular format of the show. Due to all its pluses and minuses, we're going to have to give the urge an unsatisfactory 2 thumbs sideways. Basically, it's something that can easily be good or bad depending on how you manage it. If you find yourself seized by an urge too powerful to ignore, my suggestion is to indulge yourself, adding more and more parts to your project until you burn yourself out a little. Then take a break, come back, and cut away all the stuff you added which isn't really necessary. Ideally, you'll have carved out something you can feel happy showing to others. Ideally. Phew! Now I just need to focus on fighting the urge to make this episode longer so I can just say a bunch more crap. Blart. Whew. Men in Black. Welcome to In a Handful of Minutes, the show where we review everything else. In this week's show, we'll be reviewing continuity errors. Like an episode of the show where I just stare at the camera and eat French planes for French planes, cut. Mexican robotic shark while juggling identical twin supermodels, then why would you even try to record an episode of Handful? Cut. Get some beers for the party next Thursday, and now that I think about it, I should definitely get an airplane. Pornography is a thing you can buy. You shouldn't pay money though because of the internet. The internet! There are small children. There are small children very nearby.